Used to judge too quickly from the surface of the day. One mistake, one bad moment, and that turned my heart away. I thought people had to fit inside the lines I drew. Measured every soul I met against what I thought was true. But life became exhausting. Everyone felt far, because nobody survives this world without a single scar. Then I met people gentle enough to look beyond my flaws, people who saw my heart first before judging what I caused. And somehow being understood changed everything in me, because kindness opens human hearts more than perfection ever could. Don't blame people for not living like you. Different hearts carry different truths, different wounds break through. Don't erase a whole soul for one mistake they made. A single stormy moment doesn't define a life's shape. See the good before the weakness, see the heart before the fall, and people will gather naturally when they feel safe enough at all. I remember failing badly, feeling ashamed inside, certain everyone around me would leave or criticize. But somebody stayed calm, didn't reduce me to that night. They saw my intentions deeper beyond the temporary fight. And honestly, I never forgot it, because grace feels rare these days in a world addicted to judgment and quick opinions thrown away. Everybody wants understanding, but few people know how to give it. Everybody wants acceptance, but fear keeps limiting it. We stare too hard at outcomes, too little at the soul, forgetting human beings are more than broken results. Some people speak harshly because pain shaped their tone. Some people fail repeatedly because they're fighting wars unknown. And maybe if we look deeper, instead of rushing to condemn, we discover wounded hearts trying their best again. 'Cause people bloom differently when they feel respected first, and harsh judgment often dries what kindness could have nurtured. Don't search only for flaws, you'll always find them there. Search for what is beautiful too, and people start to care. The strongest leaders I've known didn't control through fear. They simply made people feel safe enough to stay near, safe enough to fail sometimes, safe enough to grow, safe enough to be imperfect without losing all hope. That kind of love attracts souls more than power ever will, because hearts gather naturally where compassion lives still. So now I try to pause more before deciding who someone is. I try to see intention before reacting to the mess, because every human being is carrying hidden weight, and one moment shouldn't erase everything else they gave. Maybe real wisdom begins when judgment finally ends, and we start seeing people as hearts instead of trends. See the good before the weakness, see the soul before the scars, and people will gather quietly around whoever truly sees who they are. The world keeps moving forward even when you stand still. Time never stops breathing, and neither should your will. Comfort feels so tempting, like a quiet place to hide, but slowly staying motionless kills the fire inside. Because life was never meant to be lived to sleep, and hearts without direction eventually grow weak. If you stop growing, you start fading away. There's no standing still forever in the flow of days. So raise your vision higher, higher than your fear. The soul becomes as large as the dreams it keeps near. I used to think survival was enough for me somehow, just getting through tomorrow without asking deeper how. But something felt unfinished even on peaceful days, because existing without progress is another form of decay. A tree still reaches upward even through storms and rain. A river keeps on moving no matter what remains. Nature itself teaches us movement is life, and anything refusing growth slowly loses light. That truth changed something in me, made me look inside at all the ways I settled just to avoid the climb. The goals I made too small, the risks I never took, the dreams I kept in prison like unread pages in a book. But the soul grows restless when purpose stays contained, and people become shadows when they stop trying to change. If you stop climbing, the mountain disappears, not because it moved away, but because you surrendered years. So aim beyond comfort, aim beyond applause, aim toward the highest version of who you really are. The strongest people I've known never believed they were done. Even after success arrived, they still kept becoming someone. Not chasing perfection blindly, not running from their scars, but understanding human beings must keep reaching for the stars. Because growth keeps us alive, keeps wonder in the chest, keeps the future open wide instead of settling for less. And honestly, I fear stagnation more than failure or pain, because failure still means movement, while standing still changes nothing again. Every day asked quietly, will you rise once more? Will you become a little stronger than the person you were before? That's the real challenge, not defeating everyone else, but refusing to abandon the possibility within yourself. So I'll keep climbing slowly, even when progress feels small, because mountains are conquered one honest step at all. And maybe true success is not arriving first, but continuing upward even through the worst. If we stop progressing, we begin to disappear. So I'll raise my purpose higher, higher every year, because human souls were made to grow, to seek, to rise. And the people who keep evolving eventually touch the sky. So don't lower your vision just because the climb is steep. The height of your purpose determines the height your soul can reach. I used to wonder why people felt so far away, why kindness seems so rare, why love would never stay. I wanted understanding, wanted softer words from them, wanted someone gentle enough to heal what hurt within. But every time I felt wounded, every time I felt alone, I never stopped to question the sharpness in my own tone. Because sometimes the people who beg the loudest for care are the ones forgetting quietly to give it while it's there. Before you ask for kindness, look at your own hands. Before you blame another heart, try to understand the words you throw in anger, the silence you create might be the love arrives too late. I remember one conversation that replayed inside my head, not because of what they told me, but because of what I said. I thought I was defending myself, thought I was being true, till I saw pain in their expression and realized what my bitterness could do. And honestly, it shook me how easy it can be to hurt another person deeply while believing you're the victim entirely. Because pain can make us selfish, it narrows what we see, till all we notice is our suffering and not the wounds we leave. Compassion starts within us, not in what we demand. And people who can't love themselves gently often hurt without understanding it firsthand. But how often do we offer it before asking someone else? How often do we stop and think before speaking from our pride? How often do we notice tears behind another person's eyes? The strongest hearts reflect first before pointing blame around, because maturity begins the moment ego quiets down. Not every conflict means the world is cruel or cold. Sometimes we become the storm without even knowing. So that truth hurt me deeply, but it also set me free. Because if I can hurt people, then I can choose differently. I can soften how I speak, I can listen more slowly, I can pause before reactions, turn temporary anger into permanent grief unknowingly. Maybe real kindness isn't something we request. Maybe it's something we practice first inside our own chest. Because words become mirrors and energy returns. The warmth we give away eventually comes back in turn. Before you ask for understanding, become someone who understands. Before you ask the world for gentleness, learn gentleness firsthand. And maybe relationships heal the moment we begin, not by demanding better treatment, but by changing what we bring within. So now before I blame somebody or say they hurt me first, I try to face my own reflection and question my own words. Because compassion grows outward from the soul, it starts inside. And the people who love most deeply usually begin by changing themselves first tonight. I used to think admiration made me somehow small, like praising someone else would make me lose it all. So I stayed quiet often when I saw something shine, afraid that lifting others up would lower me inside. But envy built invisible walls between one heart and another, turning human connection into silent competition undercover. And honestly, it gets lonely, always trying to compare, always measuring value like love and worth are rare. Then I met people unafraid to celebrate someone else, and somehow their confidence felt stronger than itself. Because people who praise freely don't shrink when others rise. They stand beside another light without fear inside their eyes. respect creates equality, not distance or control. And kindness spoken openly brings people close. I remember hearing someone praise another without envy. No hidden bitterness behind it, no need to compete quietly. And something about that moment felt unexpectedly strong, like security itself was standing in the room all along. 'Cause insecure hearts compare, but grounded hearts connect. They recognize another person's beauty without losing self-respect. A compliment can become a bridge between two separate lives. A way of saying I see your light and mine survives. That changed the way I speak now. Changed the way I live. 'Cause genuine appreciation is one of the purest things to give. The world teaches rivalry, who's ahead and who's behind. But human beings blossom more when they're not trapped inside that mind. There's enough brilliance for everybody, enough sky for every star. And recognizing someone else's gift doesn't erase who you are. Maybe that's maturity, to admire without fear. To let another person shine and still feel whole standing here. Because people become lonely when pride controls their view, and connection becomes easier the moment appreciation turns true. When you praise someone honestly, you stand on equal ground. No masks, no competition, just souls finally found. And maybe the strongest people are quietly this way, secure enough to celebrate the beauty in somebody else today. So I'll speak the good I notice before the moment goes. 'Cause kindness unspoken is a flower that never grows. And maybe the world softens every time we choose to lift another person up without needing to win or lose. When you honor someone's light, you don't disappear from view. You simply become human enough to let another human shine too. You keep staring at the distance, at the mountain far ahead, thinking every dream is impossible. Inside your tired head, you keep waiting for a moment when fear completely disappears. But courage rarely arrives first, it's born while standing here. The road you want feels endless, the future feels too wide, and every tiny movement seems too small to change your life. But oceans start with rivers, and mornings start with light, and every life transformed began with one step into the night. Start walking toward your dream, even if the step feels small, because direction matters more than standing still through it all. The beginning may seem tiny, like nothing's really changed, but every future is created, one movement at a time each day. I used to underestimate the power of beginning slow. I thought only giant moments could completely change a soul, but little choices shape us, quiet habits build our name, and small steps repeated daily eventually become change. One page written, one call made, one fear faced, one chance taken. That's how people slowly become the lives they've always imagined. I remember nights frustrated, feeling stuck inside one place, dreaming of another future, but too afraid to chase. Then one day I moved slightly, barely more than a start, but something shifted deeply inside my restless heart. Because action wakes the spirit in ways thinking never can, and movement creates momentum for becoming who you are meant to stand as. The first step may look meaningless to everybody else, but to the person finally taking it, it can become everything itself. A door quietly opening, a chain beginning to break, a soul finally deciding not to waste another day. You don't need perfection, you don't need giant leaps, you just need enough courage to move your trembling feet toward the life you long for, toward the person you could be. Because dreams only stay impossible when they never leave imagination to breathe. And honestly, most people lose, not because they lack skill, but because they never started walking toward what they felt. Fear convinced them to remain inside familiar pain, while the future waited patiently just beyond the rain. So start now, even slowly, even unsure, even tired, because motion feeds the fire, and standing still buries desire. One small step today can change your whole direction, and years from now you may look back at this quiet moment of decision, not as something dramatic, not as some thunderous sign, but simply as the day you finally chose your life. Start walking toward your dream, no matter how far it seems, because mountains are climbed slowly and realities begin as dreams. The first step may look tiny, but every road begins that way, and the people who change their lives are simply the ones who start today. Why would a fire awaken inside an ordinary soul? Why would a vision haunt you if you were never meant to go? Why would your heart keep reaching beyond what eyes can see? Maybe the dream itself is proof of possibility. I used to doubt my future, every step, every sign, thinking dreams were given only to stronger hearts than mine. refused to back down. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe it's always been true. If a dream was placed inside your heart, then the strength was placed there too. Not to make the journey easy, not to remove the pain, but enough to keep you moving again and again. Dreams are never given without the power to rise. But power means nothing without sacrifice, because the stars don't reach the heavens without burning through the night. And every beautiful future is built through endless fights. I've seen people with talent lose to fear and delay, and people with nothing but passion still find a way. Because dreams demand effort, they demand becoming more, demand waking up exhausted and still walking toward the door. The universe may give the vision, but your hands must build the road. Your sweat must carry the weight, your soul must bear the load. I remember nights discouraged, feeling far away from gold, wondering if the dream I carried was too heavy to hold. But somewhere underneath exhaustion, a quiet truth remained. You were not given this longing just to live unchanged. That truth became my anchor when progress moved too slow, because purpose without effort will never fully grow. A seed contains a forest, but still must break the ground. Potential means nothing if courage never comes around. So I stopped waiting for miracles and started becoming one, little by little, through discipline and blood. Through mornings nobody witnessed, through failures no one praised, through staying loyal to the dream even on hopeless days. Because dreams test devotion before they become real, and the strongest souls are shaped by what they refuse to leave. Not everyone who dreams succeeds, but nobody succeeds without dreaming first. And nobody reaches greatness without surviving the worst. So if your heart still burns for something, protect that sacred light, 'cause maybe your dream exists to pull you toward your highest life. The strength already lives in you, even if you can't see it yet. And every step through hardship is proving it with every breath. But don't mistake potential for something automatic. Dreams only become reality when effort becomes fanatic. When you choose to climb repeatedly, even when nobody understands. When you keep building your future with trembling, tired hands. Because the dream and the strength were given side by side, and the rest is decided person I'm meant to be is waking through my dreams. I spent so many years believing that my worth was tied to winning. Like every dream had value only if I reached the ending. I thought failure meant weakness, thought losing meant shame, thought heaven only smiled on people who built successful names. So every mistake crushed me, every loss felt like proof that maybe I was never worthy of chasing any truth. But one night in the silence, a different thought appeared. Maybe life was never asking for perfection born from fear. Maybe God never wanted a flawless victory. Maybe the sacred part was simply having courage enough to leap. Maybe heaven isn't watching just the trophies that we gain. Maybe it's watching whether we rise again and again. Maybe the point was never to guarantee success, but to live with enough bravery to give our whole heart nonetheless. I look at all the dreamers who failed before they flew, every artist, every fighter who doubted what to do. Most of them stood trembling, most of them were scared, most of them kept moving without knowing if anyone cared. And somehow that feels holy, more than ever falling down, because courage shines brightest when fear is all around. A seed still reaches upward, not knowing if it'll bloom. A bird still leaves the branch, though storms may come too soon. Nature itself keeps trying without certainty or pride. So why do human beings think we must succeed before we try? I used to wait for guarantees before giving my all, but guarantees don't exist for souls called to something beyond small. The dream itself is sacred, the effort itself is real, and becoming someone fearless enough to try is its own kind of miracle. Maybe success was never measured by applause or fame, but by whether you honored the fire calling out your name. Did you love deeply? Did you risk the fall? Did you keep moving forward even through it all? Because the people who inspire us aren't always the ones who won. They're the ones who stood back up when everyone thought they were done. And honestly, maybe failure isn't the tragedy we fear. Maybe the real tragedy is letting fear keep us here, staring at untouched dreams from the safety of the shore, while life keeps whispering softly, there was something you were meant for. So face what calls me, even if my voice still shakes, even if the outcome turns into mistakes, because something inside me knows this life is not about control. It's about answering courage when purpose calls your soul. And maybe that's enough. Maybe trying is divine. Maybe heaven smiles softly every single time a human being chooses to rise beyond their fear and dares to walk toward a dream without needing certainty here. So I won't worship perfection anymore. I'll worship the climb instead, because brave hearts are remembered long after victories end. And maybe God never asked us to always win the fight. Maybe He simply hoped we'd be brave enough to try. Everybody talks about beginnings, about where you came from, about the empty pockets, about the roads you walked alone on. They measure your chances by the place you start, like destiny is decided before you even move your heart. But mountains don't ask questions about the ground below, and stars don't care where darkness starts before they learn to glow. Because success isn't born from comfort or perfect timing. It's born from how high your spirit dares to keep climbing. It's not about where you begin, it's about how high you aim, how big the fire burns inside when the whole world doubts your name. Some people start with nothing, yet still reach the sky, 'cause vision carries farther than fear ever will in life. I used to feel ashamed of how far behind I stood, watching people race ahead while I struggled where I could. I thought success belonged to people born ahead, people with easier roads and safer steps instead. But then I saw dreamers rise from places full of pain, people with broken histories still refusing to stay chained. And what separated them wasn't money, luck, or fame. It was the size of what they believed they could someday become through the flame. 'Cause small goals create small lives, and fear creates smaller ones still. But impossible visions awaken a different kind of will, the kind that survives rejection, the kind that survives delay, the kind that keeps moving upward when easier hearts walk away. Aim higher than comfort, aim higher than fear, because the soul expands toward what it keeps near. And even if you fall short, sometimes you'll still rise above the limits built by smaller dreams and safer kinds of love. I've seen people with talent wasted staying low, too afraid to imagine how far they could truly go. And I've seen ordinary people become extraordinary somehow, simply because they aim their hearts beyond what others allowed. Because vision changes effort, it changes what you endure. A person with a giant dream can survive much more. The road may take years, the climb may leave scars, but direction matters more than where you currently are. A bird born in a storm still learns to touch the sky, and some of the brightest souls come from the darkest nights. So don't apologize for dreaming too high. The world changes because some people refuse smaller lives. Maybe they'll laugh at your vision, maybe they'll call it naive, but every impossible thing once began with belief. And honestly, the saddest thing isn't failing while you try. It's spending your whole existence never daring to aim high. So I'll lift my eyes higher than fear wants them to go, because greatness begins the moment a human soul decides to grow. Not based on where it started, not based on what it lacked, but based on the courage to chase something bigger, back to back through every setback. It's not about where you begin, it's about how high you choose, because people become the size of the dreams they refuse to lose. Everybody talks about beginnings, about where you came from, about the empty pockets, about the roads you walked alone on. They measure your chances by the place you start, like destiny is decided before you even move your heart. But mountains don't ask questions about the ground below, and stars don't care where darkness starts before they learn to glow. Because success isn't born from comfort or perfect timing, it's born from how high your spirit dares to keep climbing. It's not about where you begin, it's about how high you aim, how big the fire burns inside. Everybody's in a hurry, watching clocks instead of skies, measuring their worth by timing, comparing every life. Too late echoes loudly inside so many minds, like dreams expire suddenly if they don't arrive on time. I used to fear the distance between where I was and where I dreamed, watching other people rise while I still build quietly. And honestly, it hurts sometimes, feeling far behind, like the world was moving forward while I was losing time. But then I realized something simple, strong and true. The pace was never what mattered, the direction was what pulled you through. It doesn't matter how long it takes if your heart still knows the way. A dream survives through patience, not speed alone each day. The important thing is having something worth waking up for at night, because a soul without direction slowly loses its light. Mountains aren't conquered instantly, trees don't rise overnight, and some of the strongest people spend years learning how to fight. Growth is quiet often, invisible at first, and purpose keeps you moving, even through the worst. I've seen people arrive early, yet still feel incomplete, and I've seen slow dreamers build lives incredibly deep, because meaning isn't measured by how fast somebody wins, but by whether their spirit stayed alive through everything that's been. A goal gives shape to suffering, turns pain into a road, turns wandering into movement, turns pressure into hope. Without direction, even comfort feels empty, but with purpose, even struggle carries meaning. So what if it takes 10 years? So what if the climb is steep? The stars still shine above you, even when the night runs deep. The world may call you late, but your soul knows when it's true. Some journeys need more seasons to become fully you. And honestly, I think people break less from failure than from forgetting what they were reaching for altogether. That's why dreams matter. That's why goals survive. Not because they guarantee success, but because they keep your spirit alive. As long as you are moving towards something real inside, you are not wasting your life, no matter how long the ride. Every small step counts, every quiet day, every moment you refuse to completely walk away. Because purpose gives endurance to exhausted hearts and minds, and people with direction eventually find light. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not as planned, but slowly, steadily, through years nobody understands. So I won't fear the timeline anymore, I won't panic at delay, because beautiful things are still beautiful, even if they take time to make. And maybe true failure is not arriving slow, but living without something meaningful to follow. So let the road be difficult, let the waiting test my soul. As long as I still have a dream, I'll never truly be lost at all. Everybody talks about the future like it appears on its own, like tomorrow is something waiting somewhere already known. But nothing changes without vision, nothing rises from the dark. Before every road existed, it began inside a heart. Every city, every story, every fire, every light was once a fragile dream someone protected through the night. Because dreams are not escape, they're the birthplace of what's real. The future doesn't arrive randomly, it becomes what people dare to feel. Dreams are the only thing that built tomorrow's sky. Before the world can change, somebody has to imagine why. Every future starts invisible before becoming alive, and people without dreams only learn how to survive. I used to fear dreaming loudly, afraid to look naive, afraid the world would laugh at me for what I dared believe. So I kept my hopes hidden, buried underneath routine, working through the same old days without asking what they mean. And slowly something faded, a quiet kind of pain. Because a life without direction starts feeling all the same. Then one night I realized the people who changed history weren't the ones who waited safely. They were the ones obsessed with possibility, the ones who saw beyond the present, beyond the limits everyone knew, the ones who carried visions strong enough to pull them through. Because dreams create movement, dreams create fire, dreams pull exhausted souls toward something higher. Without dreams, talent sleeps. Without dreams, courage dies. Without dreams, human beings forget how to rise. Every invention started as longing, every revolution started as thought, every meaningful life began by chasing something others could not. And yes, dreams can break, you can leave scars behind, but living without them slowly breaks something deeper inside. I've seen people surrender, not because they lacked skill, but because they stopped imagining something greater still. And honestly, that frightens me more than failure ever could. To become so realistic that wonder disappears for good. Because the future belongs to those willing to see beyond what already exists, into who I could someday be. Dreams are dangerous, but they're sacred too, because every beautiful future begins with someone like you. Someone crazy enough to believe this world when nobody understands, because the life I'm meant to build starts inside my own hands. And maybe the greatest tragedy is not falling while you try, but abandoning the dream that once made your spirit feel alive. Dreams are the only thing that build tomorrow's light. The future is born quietly inside a dreamer's mind tonight. So let them laugh, let them doubt. Every future begins with somebody dreaming it out. Everybody wants the answer. Everybody asks the same. What does it really mean to become successful someday? Some say it's money, some say it's fame. Some chase applause forever just to feel their life has weight. But I've seen wealthy people empty and famous people lost. I've seen shining victories that came with hidden costs. And honestly, it made me wonder if we've misunderstood what success was ever meant to be, and what makes a life truly good. Maybe success isn't measured by how high your name can rise. Maybe it's measured by the courage you carried through your life. How hard did you chase your dream? How much of your heart did you give? Did you fight for something meaningful, or just exist? Because one day all the trophies, all the numbers disappear, but the battles you fought for your soul stay with you here. I remember nights exhausted, working toward invisible goals. No applause, no recognition, just fire inside my soul. There were moments I felt foolish, moments I wanted to quit, watching easier roads around me while I still struggled through it. But deep down something whispered, this effort still matters somehow. 'Cause even if I never reached the summit, at least I truly climbed until now. And maybe that's the point of living, not arriving untouched by pain, but becoming someone stronger through the storms and rain. Because people who never challenge themselves, they stay comfortable for years, but something inside them slowly wonders, what if I had faced my fears? I'd rather fail while reaching than spend my whole life small. Because dreams ignored too long become the heaviest regret of all. Success is waking up someday and knowing deep inside you didn't betray your passion just to safely survive. It's known you gave effort even when results were unclear, knowing you kept moving forward even while carrying fear. The strongest people I've known weren't always the ones who won. They were the ones who kept trying long after others were done. People who stayed devoted to something larger than pride. People who gave their whole spirit to the dream they carried inside. Because 'Cause effort shapes the soul more than victory ever could. And struggle with purpose can turn pain into something good. So maybe success isn't perfection or becoming more admired. Maybe success is refusing to let your inner fire die quietly. Maybe it's daring to believe your dream deserves pursuit and giving everything you had, becoming your truth. Because at the end of this life, when silence fills the air, the question won't be how much did you own or how many people stared. The real question waiting softly at the edge of time may be, did you truly challenge yourself to become who you dream to be?
The world keeps chasing louder things, bigger names, brighter lights, power dressed in expensive clothes, winning every fight. People worship fame like heaven, mistake noise for worth, like greatness only belongs to the strongest on the earth. But I've met people quietly who changed my life for good, not through status or attention, but simply because they stood for honesty when lying was easier, for kindness when bitterness grew, for friendship that stayed steady when the whole world walked through. And maybe that's true greatness, not glory or applause, but staying good-hearted no matter what life caused, holding on to simple virtues when the world says let them go. That's the kind of strength most people never know. I remember one old friend who never spoke too much, but every word they gave me carried warmth enough. Never chasing recognition, never needing to impress, just showing up consistently with loyalty and gentleness. And honestly, that moved me more than all the loud success I've seen, because character shines differently than temporary things. The world is full of clever people, full of talent, charm and pride, but rare are those who stay sincere deep down inside. Rare are those who stay compassionate even after pain. Rare are those who protect trust when betrayal could bring gain. 'Cause goodness is difficult in a world this cold, and integrity costs something as the years unfold. It's easy to become cynical, easy to harden your heart, easy to use people just to get ahead and play the part. But staying honest through disappointment, staying kind through scars, staying loyal through chaos, that's where true greatness starts. Not in conquering others, not in standing above, but in becoming someone safe enough to be trusted and loved. A person who keeps promises even when nobody sees. A person who speaks gently even while carrying grief. A person who values friendship more than pride or gain. A person who remains human after walking through pain. Maybe his history forgets those people. Maybe crowds never know their names, but the lives they touch quietly are forever changed. Because kindness echoes longer than fame ever will, and honest hearts leave warmth behind long after the world stands still. So I don't wanna be admired for power or success alone. I wanna become the kind of soul people feel safe calling home. The kind who doesn't abandon truth when life becomes hard. The kind who protects friendship like something sacred in the dark. And maybe that's the highest thing a human being can do, to stay morally beautiful while the world pressures you not to. Quiet greatness lies there inside ordinary days, in honesty, kindness, friendship, and the courage to remain that way. I used to think my feelings were the center of the room, like my pain explained everything, like my anger gave me truth. I judged from one small window, one version of the sky, never stopping long enough to ask the deeper why. And every reckless decision, every careless thing I'd say, didn't only hurt myself, it pushed other hearts away. Because a narrow mind can't see beyond its fear, and people blinded by themselves leave damage everywhere. If you only see your own side, you'll lose your way in time, and the people standing near you pay the price beside your life. Because wisdom starts growing the moment we understand the world is bigger than what we hold inside our hands. I've seen people chase pride without thinking who it breaks, turning every conversation into something they must take. I've seen stubborn hearts refuse to bend or hear, destroying trust around them while insisting they were clear. And honestly, it's tragic how small the mind can get when ego becomes louder than compassion or respect. Because perspective is responsibility, not just intelligence alone. The choices that we make ripple far beyond our own. Every word affects somebody, every action leaves a trace, and selfish ways of living eventually spread pain. If you only think about yourself and never truly grow, a person trapped inside their pride can never fully know what other people carry, know the battles they survive, know how deeply human hearts are connected underneath this life. The strongest people listen before deciding they are right. They widen their perspective instead of choosing every fight. Because maturity means understanding you are not the only pain, and every human being sees the world through different rain. I remember moments clearly when anger filled my chest, and all I wanted instantly was proving But later came the silence, and with it came the truth that being technically correct can still become cruel. And that changed something in me, something difficult but real. That wisdom without empathy can wound more than it heals. So now I try to pause more, try to look beyond my own, because narrow thinking traps us inside walls we've always known. And maybe true intelligence is not just what you know, but whether your understanding helps another person grow. If you only see yourself, you'll eventually lose sight of how deeply all our lives are tied together in this life. And people blinded by ego don't just fall alone, they pull others down beside them without even knowing. So I wanna live with vision wide enough to care, wide enough to recognize another person standing there. Because the world becomes safer the moment we realize we are responsible not only for ourselves, but for the lives nearby.
You've been standing at the edge now, watching life from far away, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for fear to fade. You keep building future stories inside your restless mind, but dreams don't change your life if they never leave inside. The road looks overwhelming, the mountain feels too high, and every possible failure keeps replaying every night. But nothing ever changes for the heart that only waits, and every locked tomorrow still begins with one small step. Take the first step, even if your hands still shake, even if the whole world tells you might break. You don't need all the answers, you don't need perfect sight, you just need enough courage to move one time tonight. I used to think brave people never felt afraid, like confidence arrived first before the choice was made. But courage isn't certainty, it's movement through the doubt. It's hearing fear scream loudly and still stepping out. 'Cause every dream worth chasing starts before you feel prepared, and every beautiful future begins the moment you dare. A bird learns how to fly by leaving safer ground, and oceans aren't discovered by staying where you're found. I remember nights frozen, trapped inside my head, watching opportunities pass because of things I feared instead. What if I fail? What if they laugh? What if I lose everything trying to chase this path? But one day I realized slowly failure wasn't the deepest pain. The deepest pain was wondering who I could have become if I had changed. That truth hit like thunder, straight into my soul, because regret grows heavier than any risk we hold. Take the first step, the road appears with time, not all at once before you, but little by little while you climb. Some endings won't be perfect, some nights will test your faith, but every step still moves you closer than staying safe. The strongest people walking were once afraid like you. They just decided finally to move before they knew. Before the fear disappeared, before the certainty came, before the world approved them, before success had a name. And maybe that's the secret hidden inside the climb. The future belongs to people who act before the perfect time. So don't wait forever for confidence to arrive, because action creates courage and motion creates life. You were never meant to stay trapped inside your fear. There's a version of yourself waiting just beyond this moment here. Take the first step, even if it's small, because mountains are conquered one movement at a time through it all. And years from now you'll realize the moment your life changed was never when you reached the dream, but when you stopped being afraid and chose to take the first step.
I used to close my ears the moment criticism came, turn every hard opinion into anger, fear, or shame. If someone spoke against me, I built walls instantly, certain they were only trying to wound my dignity. And maybe sometimes they were, maybe some words came from spite, but even bitter voices can still reveal a hidden light. Because truth doesn't always arrive wrapped in gentle hands. Sometimes wisdom reaches us through things we don't understand. So listen through the pain, even when the words cut deep, 'cause something meant to grow you might hide beneath. Not every bitter sentence is meant to make you fall. Sometimes life speaks loudest through the voices that disturb your soul. I remember one night clearly, someone called out all my pride, and every part inside me wanted to run and hide. I replayed the conversation, certain they were cruel, but after all the anger faded, I saw uncomfortable truth. The things that hurt the deepest were the things I feared were real. And suddenly the criticism became a chance to heal. Because growth rarely feels pleasant, medicine rarely tastes sweet, and wisdom often enters us through wounds beneath our feet. People who only praise you can leave you standing still, but people who expose your weakness can sharpen your spirit and will. That doesn't mean accept hatred or let yourself be destroyed, but don't reject every difficult word just because it hurts your pride. Sometimes your enemies notice the things your friends ignore, and sometimes painful honesty opens a hidden door. So listen through the pain without losing your peace. Calm hearts hear lessons power in staying steady when judgment fills the air, because emotional storms inside us can stop us seeing what's there. I used to think maturity meant always being right. Now I think maturity means remaining open through the fight. Open enough to question, open enough to learn, open enough to recognize when criticism helps you turn. The ego wants protection, the soul wants to evolve, and life keeps sending teachers and forms we don't resolve. Some arrive with kindness, some arrive through pain, but every difficult encounter can shape us once again. Maybe the universe whispers through uncomfortable sounds, trying to break the patterns that keep us tied down. And maybe wisdom begins the moment we can say, this hurt me deeply, but maybe there's something here I should face. So I won't fear every harsh word or instantly attack. I'll pause before reacting and calmly look back, because the truth that changes us most rarely feels easy at first, and some of the greatest lessons arrive disguised as hurt. So listen through the pain, even when your pride resists. A bitter voice today might become tomorrow's gift, like medicine on the tongue, hard to swallow at the start, but healing something quietly deep inside your heart.
You've been living in the same room, breathing the same air, hearing the same opinions till your dreams disappeared somewhere. Everybody knows your story, everybody knows your name, and slowly, without noticing, you started staying the same. Comfort feels warm at first, like safety you can trust, but comfort turns dangerous when it slowly gathers dust, because people stop growing where nothing challenges their soul, and stagnant water quietly forgets how to flow. If you wanna become stronger, you may have to walk away from the place that made you comfortable every single day, 'cause once you sink too deeply into easy routines and praise, it becomes so hard to leave behind the life that keeps you unchanged. I remember feeling restless, like something was missing inside, even while everything around me looked completely fine. But deep down, I knew I had stopped becoming more. I was surviving comfortably instead of chasing what I was made for. And honestly, that emptiness can become its own kind of pain when your spirit knows you're capable of something greater than staying the same. So I left familiar faces, left certainty behind, stepped into places where nobody knew my life, and it terrified me deeply to become unknown again, to lose the version version of myself everyone expected me to remain. But that's where growth began, not inside applause or ease, but inside discomfort that forced new parts of me to breathe. 'Cause new environments reveal you in ways comfort never can. They test your courage honestly, they reshape who you become. When nobody knows your limits, you stop repeating old roles, and suddenly possibilities start reopening your soul. The people ahead of you usually change something first, their habits, cities, circles, before success ever emerged. Because environment shapes hunger, shapes discipline inside, and some dreams only awaken when you leave your old life behind. So if your heart feels restless, if your days feel incomplete, maybe your soul is asking for a different street, different conversations, different risks and nights, different people pushing you toward a higher life. Don't be afraid to disappear from the place that kept you small. Sometimes losing familiarity is how you finally evolve. Yes, it will feel lonely, yes, uncertainty burns, but growth has always belonged to the soul willing to turn toward the unknown future instead of repeating the past. Because people trapped in comfort rarely become their highest selves at last. So jump into new waters, even if your voice still shakes, because transformation begins the moment comfort breaks. And one day you'll realize the life that changed your name started the moment you walked away from staying the same.
I've seen people breathing without really being alive, moving through the motions, just trying to survive. Waking up each morning without a light inside, smiling in the daytime and collapsing every night. Because the body can't keep moving long after hope is gone, but the soul grows weak and silent when it has nothing to hold on. Human hearts were never made to wander endlessly. We need something worth believing, something deeper underneath. Because nobody can live without a reason why. Not for long, not through the storms, not through the endless nights. We all need something calling us beyond fear and pain, a reason to keep standing when everything breaks again. I used to think existence was enough by itself, that time alone would somehow give meaning to my health. But empty days kept passing, and something started fading, like my spirit needed purpose more than comfort or escaping. Then I saw people transformed by love, by dreams, by truth, people carrying unbearable pain, yet somehow still moving through. Not because life was easy, not because they never cried, but because something inside them still gave meaning to the fight. For some it was their family, for some a dream not reached, for some the promise that their scars could help somebody else breathe. And suddenly I understood why purpose matters so. Without it, even beautiful lives eventually feel cold. Money can't fully save you, fame can disappear, pleasure fades quickly, but purpose keeps you here. It gives suffering direction, turns wounds into flame, turns ordinary footsteps into something that remains. Everybody asked, how do I live? But maybe the deeper question is, what for? What makes your heart endure? What pulls you through despair? What makes tomorrow meaningful enough to still care? Because human beings break slowly when life becomes routine, without something larger calling from somewhere unseen. And honestly, I think that's why so many souls feel lost. Not because they are weak, but because they forgot what once moved them, forgot what once felt true, forgot the dream or love that once carried them through. But maybe purpose never dies, maybe it only sleeps, waiting quietly beneath the noise for someone willing to seek. Maybe a reason is hidden inside the things that hurt, inside the things you cannot ignore, inside what makes your spirit burn. Because a person with purpose can survive unbelievable pain, and a person without meaning can drown in comfort all the same. So now I search more honestly, not just for success or praise, but for something worthy enough to give direction to my days. Something worth sacrificing for, something worth becoming through, something that lets my soul say, this is why I move. Because nobody truly lives without a reason inside, and the strongest hearts are often the ones with something guiding their lives. So if you feel empty tonight, maybe your soul is trying to say, you were never meant to live without a reason to stay. I used to chase attention, crowded rooms and louder nights, surrounded by so many voices, still feeling empty inside. Everybody laughed together, everybody played their part, but shallow conversations never reached my heart. Too many people speaking without knowing what they say, too many drifting circles pulling dreams away. Because not every friendship leads you toward the light. Some people keep you drowning just to feel alright. I'd rather walk with one wise soul than lose myself in noise. One honest voice beside me is stronger than 1,000 hollow choices. Because wisdom sharpens spirit, while foolish crowds confuse, and the people closest to you shape the life you choose. I remember remember one conversation late into the night with somebody who spoke quietly but somehow changed my life. No need to sound impressive, no need to dominate, just truth spoken gently without ego or hate. They challenged my excuses without making me feel small. And somehow through their honesty I started standing tall. That's when I understood the value of real friends. Not people who entertain you, but people who help you ascend. Because crowds can feel exciting, but emptiness hides there too. When nobody around you pushes you toward the truth. Some people celebrate weakness, call recklessness being free. Encourage every impulse, then disappear when life gets deep. But wise hearts speak differently, they care enough to say, you're becoming someone smaller, living this way. And that kind of friendship is rare enough to keep. 'Cause honesty with compassion doesn't come cheap. I'd rather walk with one white soul through silence and through pain than stand among 1,000 voices leading nowhere again. Because quality changes destiny more than numbers ever could. One person with true wisdom can redirect your whole life toward good. The world praises popularity, big circles, endless names, but many people still feel lonely inside all those crowded spaces. Because connection isn't counted by how many stand nearby, it's measured by who stays truthful when your spirit starts to die. A wise friend protects your future even when it's uncomfortable, not by controlling your choices, but by helping you see clearer roads. And honestly, we all become the people we surround ourselves with, little by little, conversation by conversation, choice by choice. So I choose depth over noise now, truth over temporary fun. Because one meaningful connection outweighs 100 shallow ones. I don't need endless approval or people cheering every wrong. I need souls who make me wiser, souls who make me strong. One wise heart beside you can change your entire road. 'Cause wisdom shared through friendship lightens every load. And maybe the greatest blessing this life can never give is one honest person who teaches you how to truly live. I used to love people the way I wanted love, giving what I needed most, thinking that was enough. I thought kindness meant treating everyone the same, offering my own answers to another person's pain. But hearts don't all heal equally, and comfort wears different names. What saves one soul softly may not help another the same. I learned love isn't given, the moment we try to see the world gently through somebody else's eyes. I remember trying so hard to help somebody heal, giving advice I would have wanted, thinking it was real. But all they needed quietly was someone there beside them. Not solutions or direction, just a place safe enough to breathe in. And suddenly I understood how selfish love can be when we give without listening to what another soul might need. Because caring isn't projection, it's attention with grace. It's recognizing every person has their own way to feel safe. Some people need distance, some need a closer hand, some need honesty softly, some need silent understanding. And none of it is wrong, none of it is less true. Human hearts are different worlds, even when they ache too. I used to confuse empathy with imagining they were me. But empathy is deeper than that. It's letting another person be free. Free to need differently, free to receive love their own way. Free from being reshaped by what I would personally crave. Because true compassion asks, what helps you heal tonight? Not what would make me feel better if I stood inside your life. That changed the way I listen, changed the way I stay, changed the way I love people more carefully each day. Now I ask more questions before deciding what is right. Because understanding somebody takes humility and time. Real love isn't cloning your own heart onto theirs. It's learning another language and meeting somebody there. Maybe that's why relationships break, not from lack of care, but because people keep giving what the other never asked to share. One gives space, one needs closeness, one needs softness, one needs truth. And both are trying honestly, but missing each other's roots. So now I wanna love wiser, not louder or more proud. I wanna notice who somebody is without covering them in myself somehow. Because the deepest form of kindness may simply be this: to stop assuming another heart feels exactly like yours does inside it. And maybe real connection begins the moment we start, not by loving people like ourselves, but by listening to their hearts. You keep holding back your heart, like one mistake could end your life. Like falling once would mean forever. You were never meant to fly. You keep standing at the doorway, afraid to chase the thing you love. Because failure looks so frightening when you only think
listen closely, life has never belonged to people who stayed safe forever, trying not to do wrong. The people who truly lived were willing to risk the pain, because dreams are worth the heartbreak again and again. Go chase your dream, and if you fail, so what? The sky will still be above you, the world will still turn on. You'll cry, you'll heal, you'll stand back up somehow, and one day you'll realize you survived what scares you now. I remember nights overthinking every possible collapse, imagining embarrassment before I even took the chance. What if I lose everything? What if nobody believes? What if I'm not enough to become what I dream? But fear grows louder inside unopened doors, and regret becomes heavier than failure ever was before. Because failure passes slowly, but what if never leaves? It follows you through silence and whispers while you sleep. So I finally took the risk with trembling hands and doubt, and no, it didn't go perfectly, but something changed somehow. I learned life keeps moving after broken plans and scars, and human hearts are stronger than they think they are. You adapt, you recover, you learn to breathe again. Even storms that break you eventually become the wind that pushes you somewhere wiser, somewhere more alive. Cause trying changes people more than hiding ever might. The world makes failure sound fatal, like losing means the end, but most successful people just became experts at beginning again. They failed relationships, failed dreams and jobs, failed expectations, still became who they are. Because courage isn't avoiding pain, it's understanding this. Even if things fall apart, life still continues after it. You'll meet new people, find new roads, discover strength you never knew, and maybe the dream itself will reshape you too. So why spend your whole existence protecting yourself from falling, when the heart inside your chest was built for something calling, something risky, something beautiful, something uncertain and real? Because safe lives rarely become the stories people truly feel. Go chase your dream, even if your voice still shakes, even if the road ahead is filled with possible mistakes. Because one day you'll look back not proud you stayed untouched, but proud you dared to live deeply and loved something that much. And if you fail, you'll survive that too. Maybe bruised, maybe wiser, but still becoming you. So don't let fear convince you your dream is too dangerous to try. Most things somehow work out eventually, for hearts brave enough to fly. So you failed this time, so what now? The sky didn't fall apart, you're still standing somehow. Yeah, it hurts like hell. Yeah, your confidence shakes. Yeah, the silence afterward feels impossible to face. But failure isn't the ending, no matter what they say. It's only proof you were brave enough to step into the game. What's so terrible about falling? Everybody hits the ground. The people who change their lives are the ones who rise somehow. Failure means you tried. Failure means you moved. Failure means you stepped beyond the fear most people never do. I used to treat mistakes like they define my name. One bad result becoming a prison built from shame. I thought successful people never lost control, never doubted themselves, never broke their goals. But then I looked closer at the people I admired, and every single story was built through walking fire. Rejected applications, broken plans and scars, lonely nights of wondering if they had aimed too far. And still they kept going, still they chose to climb, because failure teaches lessons success hides sometimes. A closed door teaches direction, a wrong turn sharpens sight, and every painful setback can become strength over time. So I fear losing, I fear the fall. Standing still forever is the greater loss of all, because regret grows heavier than temporary pain, and nobody becomes stronger by avoiding every way. Try again, even after the heartbreak. Try again, even when your spirit shakes. You are not your worst moment. You are not one mistake. You are the person choosing whether to rise again. I remember nights exhausted, thinking I was done, certain all my effort had meant absolutely none. But every failure carved me into someone new, more honest, more resilient, more prepared to break through. That's the hidden gift inside it, the thing pain quietly does. It forces you to grow stronger than who you previously were. And honestly, maybe success isn't ever falling down. Maybe success is refusing to let failure keep you on the ground. Because life rewards persistence more than perfect starts. And strong people are simply broken people who kept heart. So fail if you must fail, but learn something from the burn. Let the scars become wisdom, not reasons not to return. The dream is still alive, as long as you still move. And one more step forward can completely change the truth. Try again, even if nobody understands. Try again, with tired eyes and shaking hands. Because every great story has moments where hope looked thin, and the people who eventually won were just the ones who began again. You keep waiting for certainty, for every answer to appear, wanting the whole road visible before you move from here. You stare into the darkness, trying to see the end. But life was never designed to reveal itself all at once again. The future hides in shadows beyond what eyes can know, and dreams are built by people who still decide to go, even when their hands are shaking, even when they're scared, even when they can't see clearly what's waiting somewhere there. Take the first stare, even if the rest is hidden tonight. You don't need the whole horizon to begin the climb. Faith isn't seeing everything, faith is stepping anyway, trusting the road will meet you one step at a time each day. I used to stand frozen at the edge of every change, trying to calculate the future, trying to guarantee no pain. What if this goes nowhere? What if I lose control? What if I walk into darkness and never reach my goal? But while I kept hesitating, life kept moving on, and dreams slowly started fading inside the safety I held on to too long. Then one night something changed me. A quiet truth appeared. Nobody who ever became something started without fear. Every mountain climber, every artist, every soul began before the answers came, began before they knew. And somehow that set me free, because maybe the point was never to know every step beforehand, but to become stronger together with uncertainty, with movement, with courage built through trying. Because confidence is not the beginning, it's what grows after climbing. A staircase disappears upward beyond the reach of sight, but every single journey starts with one small rise, one breath, one movement, one trembling decision that whispers to your spirit you are no longer trapped in hesitation. I remember taking chances without knowing what would happen next. And yes, some roads hurt deeply, some choices became tests, but every step still shaped me. Every risk still gave more wisdom, more resilience than fear ever could, while staying safe. Because staying still feels peaceful until years begin to pass, and suddenly you realize you were waiting for a certainty that never lasts. Life belongs to movement, to hearts willing to trust, not blindly without thinking, but bravely enough to jump. So stop demanding the future reveal itself tonight. Most beautiful destinations are discovered during the climb. Take the first stair, even while the dark remains. The road appears little by little to the soul willing to change. And one day you'll look backward at the life you almost missed, because you were waiting for proof before taking the risk. But everything meaningful begins before certainty arrives, and every dream worth living for starts with one small step in into the night.